second section of this chapter is concerned with the types of definitions. Types of definition to get rid of vagueness and ambiguity. Every definition has two component parts, namely defendum and definance. The defendum is the word or the phrase being defined. The definance is the part that does the defining, providing meaning and details. For example, audacious means bold, daring, adventurous, and unrestrained by fear or convention. The defendum is audacious, and definance is bold, daring, adventurous, right? The defendum is the part of the definition that needs to be defined, and whereas the definance is the word or a group of words that gives the definitions to the defendum, right? Same thing is for the second one. Purpose of definition: clarity, precision, adding new concepts, or resolving ambiguity, and persuasions. What are the types of definitions that serve our purpose? We have got 5 typical definitions that serve our purpose. Most of them are self-explanatory. The name itself tells us something about their essential features, right? Their characteristic features. What is stipulative definition and when it's important? What is stipulative definitions and when do we employ it? When it is relevant and significant. What's to stipulate means? The word stipulate. Stipulate refers to what? Krobel, Antana.
Make up or to organize something.
Stipulate literally means to make up or to organize something. Very good. What else? Yes. To stipulate means to make up, to join, to invent, or to redefine, right? Stipulative definitions involves 3 things. Stipulative definition involves 3 things. The first is inventing new words. Stipulative definition, it invents new words which actually non-existent in particular dictionary, right? It invents new words such as the word quark in physics or flux in the 1920s. They were stipulative definitions which have never been existent in dictionary before, right? Stipulative definition: first, it invents new words. Second, it coins terms for new ideas. It coins or it joins previously existed terms in order to express new ideas, such as the word me. Me is already existent words. Then what it does? It joins. It coins those words in order to express new phenomena. The third thing stipulative definition does is what? Redefining all words. Redefining all words or attaching new meaning to all words. Such as what? Literally. Now often used for emphasis, not just factuality. Right? Literally means factually or directly. But nowadays in literature the word literally refers to what? To give emphasis. To give an emphasis. Or to highlight something, right? To redefine all the words, to join, to coin all the words, and to invent completely new words, right? The purpose of stipulative definitions. And when it is common, stipulative definition can be helpful when explaining a concept. They give us starting point to understand something new, create specialized fields such as scientists and engineers often use them to define jargon, adding flavor to language. New words can be fun and creative. It's important to use in using stipulative definition. Be clear if you are making up a word. Let people know, explain what it means, and be consistent and be appropriate, right? Stipulative definition is to use new words or to define all the words in a new manner. Persuasive definition, most of them are self-explanatory. The name itself tells us something about their essence. Persuasive definitions, unlike others, it is somehow biased in highly emotively charged terminologies. We have said emotively charged terminologies, they tend to paralyze our argument. They tend to discredit the value of our argument. So the excessive use of emotively charged terminology is not as such recommended in an argument. But this does not mean that we can get rid of emotively charged terminology from our argument altogether. It's impossible, right? Sometimes creative and clever use of emotively charged terminology is somehow helpful. Creative and clever use of emotively charged terminology is helpful to get others in line with our argument, or to persuade or to influence the attitude of others, right? What's persuasive definition? The purpose of persuasive definition, as the name implies, to persuade or to engender favorable or unfavorable attitude on others. The aim is not to transfer objective fact. In persuasive definition, the aim is not to transfer objective fact, but to influence the attitude of others. Look at the example. Climate change is a hoax perpetrated by radical environments to control our lives and tax us into oblivion. Example, the same things about the definition of climate change. Climate change is a natural cycle of Earth, a wake-up call for responsible stewardship and an opportunity for green innovation. Now, what is the aim of these two definitions? To argue against or to argue in favor of climate change. It's not to define objectively or neutrally the word climate change. The aim is to engender favorable or unfavorable attitude on the concept itself, right? The key feature of persuasive definition is emotional appeal. Charged terms, highly loaded terms is prevalent in persuasive definitions. Words like hoax, radical, control, tap into the fear or anger and distress on others. Whereas slanted definitions, which tend to create bias, natural cycles, downplay human influence, while wake-up calls emphasize urgency, right? The purpose of the persuasive definitions is to persuade or to engender one's favorable or unfavorable attitude on others. Persuasive definitions are not neutral. They are tools for persuasions, not objective explanations. Be critical. Don't accept the definition at face value. Analyze the language and consider the speaker's agenda. Use definition objectively, right? Persuasive definitions are highly emotively charged definitions, right? Emotively charged definitions, they are not intrinsically wrong, but what's wrong is what? When they leads to milder form of criticism, when they leads to a kind of excessive use of language may tend to discredit the value of our entire argument, right? When they leads to discrediting your authorship. What is the other name for lexical definition? Third one is lexical definition. Lexical definition is also known as what? Lexical definition is also called dictionary definition. Lexical definition is also known as dictionary definition. So they can be what? They can be true or false. Unlike the previous one, unlike persuasive or unlike stipulative definition, lexical definition can be true or false because they report the actual meaning of the word being used. What's the key feature of lexical definition? They report the actual or standard usage or conventional meaning. There is no room for ambiguity. The purpose of using lexical definition is what? To avoid ambiguity. Ambiguous terminologies can be avoided by using lexical definition or dictionary definitions. Imagine trying to explain a word to someone who has never heard it before. You wouldn't use your own personal feeling or bias, right? That's where lexical definitions come in. There, like the official dictionary, entries for words, focusing on their common understood meaning in a language. Lexical definition, they can be true or false because they report the conventional standard usage of the words, such as symphony or gallop or etc. Just giving what is actually used in a dictionary, right? Lexical definition is dictionary definition. They're important to avoid ambiguity. Precising definition is important to avoid what? To avoid vagueness. Precising definition is very much similar to lexical definition, but unlike lexical definition, they what? They put border, a limit. Put border or limit for dictionary definition, for lexical definitions. In other words, they set specific limits, making it more precise for particular context or purpose. Key feature, they refine but not reinvent. They build up on the conventional meaning in lexical meaning. They're not creating a new one from the scratch. They draw lines or they make a border like a map with a defined border. Precising definition limit the scope of a word, excluding certain interpretations. Like conventional word, the word tall means, like for example, tall, the word, what's the conventional meaning for the word tall? And what is the precising definition for the word tall? Tall person is tall if he's longer than 1.75 meter. A precise definition for the word tall: a player is tall, taller than 6 feet and 5 inches. This is considered to be what? Precising definitions, because it limits the border, or it applies specific situations or a specific instance to which the word tall applies. Right? Lexical definition are somehow broader as compared to precising definitions, and whereas precising definitions, they narrow down the broader realm domain of lexical definitions by giving more narrowly defined definition for lexical definition, right? Context matter. Precising definition can only be effective within a specific context or situation. They are not universal. What works for one situation might not apply to another situation, right? The precising definitions are highly technical. They are highly technical. They are not universal, whereas lexical definition is somehow what? Universal. They are universal and absolute. Precising definition is to serve some particular purpose, some particular functions. Precising definitions can be helpful for technical fields such as scientists and engineers, often use them to ensure exact interpretation of terms, legal documents, or clear communication, or etc., right? In order to serve particular purpose. They are relative as compared to lexical definitions. What's theoretical definition? Can you give an example? Theoretical definitions. Compare the definition for temperature. Temperature is defined as hotness and coldness of something. And whereas the second definition for temperature is the rate of change of molecules, the speed of molecules per second. Which one is theoretical? Second one, right? Temperature is the rate of change of molecules per second. This is theoretical. Whereas the first definition, temperature is the hotness and coldness of something. Which one is theoretical and why? Consider these examples. Gravity in general, gravity is the curvature of space-time caused by the presence of mass and energy. And whereas gravity is the force that brings things down. Which one is theoretical? The curvature of time, right? This is theoretical. Why? Because it contains more broader and deeper implications attached to the word being defined to the defender. Theoretical definition, unlike normal or conventional definition, they contain more broader and wider connotation or implication behind the word being defined. They contain mainly what? Jargons or technical terms, such as gravity, the curvature of space-time caused by the presence of mass and energy, is more theoretical as compared to its conventional or lexical definition, which is the force that brings things to fall down, right? Evolution in evolutionary theory is the change in the heritable characteristics of biological population over successive generation is also theoretical. Analogy in epistemology, knowledge justified through belief. It's considered to be theoretical. Why? Knowledge is a justified through belief. What's our common sense understanding definition of the word knowledge? Knowledge is seeing. Knowledge is perception, isn't it? Not to know something means to see it, to touch it, right? It's our common sense understanding of thinking. Whereas knowledge is justified through belief is more theoretical, because it is setting criteria or condition to be fulfilled for a particular belief or opinion to be considered as knowledge, right? Theoretical definitions are somehow wider and deeper in their connotation as compared to our common sense or lexical definition. They reveal underlying relationship and principle. They delve deeper than common understanding to expose the mechanism and connection that govern a specific object. They connect terms to other concept. They create cohesive network of underlying by linking defined terms to other concepts within the same theory. They provide explanatory power. They have explanatory power as compared to our common sense understanding of the word. Compared to other definition, they are deeper And they are different from stipulative definition because they don't invent new word. Unlike stipulative definition, they don't invent. Don't confuse theoretical definition with stipulative definitions. In theoretical definition, the aim is not to invent, but to link various words in order to give an explanatory power to a new phenomena or to the existing phenomena, right? They don't invent new meaning, but connect existing terms within a theoretical framework. More than precising, they not only reduce ambiguity, but also provide deeper understanding of the concept, structure, and functions. Deeper and wider understanding of the word. Temperature, hotness and coldness of something, or the rate of change of molecules is somehow may helps us to understand their nature more easily, right? The third section of this particular chapter is concerned with strategies or tools, techniques to produce 5 types of definitions. The first strategy is extensional techniques. An extensional definition is one that assigns a meaning to a term by indicating a member of the class that a defendant denotes. It includes ostensive definition, enumerative definition, and definition by subclass. What's ostensive definitions? And when do we use it? And what's its limitation, its drawback? Ostensive literally refers to what? It comes from the word ostendere. Ostensive comes from the word ostendere, which means what? To show or to demonstrate the object physically. To show or to demonstrate the object physically. When is showing or demonstrating the object is significant, important? When they are useful. Ostensive definitions are useful when? When words will not work. Explaining color to a young child or showing a specific dance moves to a beginner, or language, when there is a language barrier, pointing to a door for a non-native speaker who doesn't understand the word, or etc. Examples, this pointing things in the spark is an obelisk. As you point to the Washington Monument or orange, this scratchy feeling is what we call itching. This sweet bulby drink is what. Constructive definitions are important when people are unable to communicate each other using language, or when you believe that using language may tend to create misunderstanding. Right? When you believe that using language is somehow may tend to create confusion than clarity, then ostensive definition may be employed. They can be used, but they do have their own limitation and drawback, pitfalls. Not for everything. Abstract concepts such as justice cannot be defined using ostensive definition. Context dependent. They need further explanations. In a house full of lamps, limited precisions cannot capture all complexities or variations of a concept. They are very much limited, but they serve their own purpose in context when the use of language may tend to create confusion. Enumerative definitions. What's to enumerate means? Enumerative definitions and definition by subclass, they may tend to be confused, may tend to be somehow. To enumerate literally means what? To enumerate means to list by what? By subclass? By group or what? By individually, one by one. To name the member of class individually or one by one. For example, a philosopher is someone like Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, Descartes, Kant, or Hegel provides concrete example of who falls under the philosopher umbrella. Benefit, it's easy to understand, especially for concrete things like objects or categories with distinct members. What is the weakness of enumerative definition? To enumerate means to mention the defendants individually, one by one. What's the limitation? Weakness. Potential drawback of enumerative definition. They may tend to create. To list, it may be impossible to list all the members. Yes, one. Very good. The second is what? They may tend to create pairs. They may tend to create pairs or one-sided view of the word being defined. Look at the examples. Philosopher means Socrates, Plato, Descartes, Kant, Hegel, or Socrates, or etc. It may tend to create a bias. Why? Because the person who is exposed to such kind of definition may tend to associate the word philosopher with Western philosopher. He may tend to associate the word philosopher with Western, because the definition mentions all Western philosophers, right? An individual mentioning may tend to create a bias, and they lack explanations. They are highly limited in their scope. They may tend to mention only part of the definitions, right? They are limited in their scope, and they may tend to create bias or a sided view of the defendant or the word being defined. The same thing is true for subclass. They may tend to bias, and they are very much limited, but they do have their own function. They do have their own purpose, their own significance, right? Definition by subclass assigns meaning to a word by listing subclass. Unlike enumerative, don't confuse enumerative definition with definition by subclass. Some students, they tend to confuse definition by subclass with enumerative definitions. The question that you need to ask yourself is to look into the definants and ask yourself whether the definant is an individual mentioning or a subclass mentioning. Don't confuse definition by subclass with definition by enumerative. The point is to ask yourself whether the definant is listed individually, one by one. A mammal is a warm-blooded vertebrate animal with a fur or hair, and human are a type of mammal. It is subclass mentioning. A fruit is a mature, ripened ovary of a flowering plant, or etc. This is a subclass mentioning, because you can think of an individual under the defendants, which is included under the defendant, right? So it's included under the defendant. But in the previous example, we cannot think of an individual other than the individual mentioned in the defendants, right? Other than the individual mentioned in the defendant. Don't confuse. It is easy to confuse definition by subclass with definition by enumerative. You need to be cautious of identifying definition by subclass from enumerative definitions. Intentional connotative techniques is that assign a meaning to a word by indicating the quality or attributes that the word connotes. There are four kinds of intentional techniques, namely synonymous definition, etymological definition, operational definition, and definition by genus and difference. What is synonymous definition and when it is important? A synonymous definition is a type of definition. It's a type of definition that uses another word with the same meaning. In synonymous definitions, you have to note that both defendant and defendants must be what? Single word. In giving synonymous definition, both defendant and defendants must be single word that connotes the same meaning. That connotes the same meaning, right? In giving synonymous definition, don't give list of meaning for the defendant, but both the defendant and the defendants must be single word. Importance to clarify unfamiliar words. Clarify unfamiliar words, or to make technical jargons more understandable, or to improve communications, right? Clarify unfamiliar words, such as the word loquacious. It's somehow less popular or less known as the word as compared to the word talkative, right? In order to replace unfamiliar or less popular words with more familiar and with more commonly known words. Second purpose, significance of using synonymous definition is to replace technical jargons. To replace technical jargons. For example, if you are reading a manual about how to use any piece of software, you might come across a lot of technical terms that you don't understand. But if the manual includes synonymous definition for these terms, you will be able to understand the term better. For example, what's the word bug? The word bug in software, it's a kind of jargon, right? Error or flaw in program, right? So using synonymous definition is important to clarify technical jargons and to clarify unfamiliar words and to improve communications, right? To making sure that we are on the same page. Etymological definitions, they provide the etymology or the root meaning of the word, the ancestral usage of the word. They can provide a deeper understanding of the essential meaning, especially when its current use has strayed or deviated away from its original meaning. Like the word ambivalent. Ambivalent currently is used to refer to what? To refer to what? Ambivalent. Like ambivalent means confused, isn't it? In its current usage, the word ambivalent is used in a completely different context, in a completely different meaning. But in order to discover its essential meaning, we need to use etymological definitions to look into the root meaning of the word being defined. Ambivalent comes from the word ambi, which means both, valentia, which means strengths. So etymologically, the word ambivalent refers to what? Both strengths. But its current use is what? Apathic or anchoric, which is completely different. It's completely unrelated to its original meaning, right? So digging the root meaning of the word will help us to understand the essential or the original meaning of the word being defined, right? The best example is the word ambivalent. Its current usage is entirely completely different from its original meaning. Second purpose of etymological definition is to educatively guess the entire constellation of words associated to it. Educatively, logically guess. Pathos. The pathos family, knowing that apathy comes from the Greek pathing, feeling, let you guess the emotional slant of related words. Like sympathy, there is the word path, right? Feeling, sharing, or empathy, feeling in another, and apathic, lacking feeling, right? If you know the meaning of a particular word, then it may help you to educatively or logically guess the meaning associated with it. The knowledge of etymological definition is important to know the entire constellation of words associated with it. Philosophy. Philo means love. Philadelphia. What does Philadelphia mean? Brotherly love. Philanthropy. Philanthropy. Love of anthropy means anthropology, human being, right? Love of human, right? The knowledge of particular word, the etymological knowledge of particular word will help us to educatively guess the meaning of the entire constellation of words associated to it, right? Pathos, you know, then you can educatively, logically guess the words that are associated or linked to it, right? The knowledge of etymological definition is important to educatively guess the meaning associated with it. Precision in language, enrich in vocabulary. By unearthing the word's root, etymology helps us use words accurately and avoid confusions. And enrich vocabulary. Learning etymology is like taking a linguistic archaeology too, unearthing the layer of meaning buried within the words. This can spark curiosity, expand our vocabulary, and enrich your understanding of language as a living and evolving entity. Operational definition, as the name implies, it requires what? Operation to be performed. It requires operation, experimentation, observation to be performed. They outline specific procedure or tests to determine whether a term applies to a particular situation or not. They do have their own limitation, and they are considered to be the most limited together with ostensive definition, but they do have their own purpose. They do have their own significance, function to play in defining concepts, such as the word hardness is better defined by what? By operational definitions. Material A is harder than material B if and only if A scratches B when rubbed together. It's an operational definition. Brain activity, person exhibits the brain activity if and only if an electroencephalograph shows oscillation when connected to their head. Operational definitions. They carried out certain operations or experimentation or verification in order to define, in order to specify whether a particular concept applies to a particular instance. Whether a particular concept applies exactly to particular instances, right? But they are most limited. They are the most limited together with ostensive definitions. Why? Operational definitions are the most limited types of techniques of definitions because they convey only part of the meaning of the word being defined, right? They contain part of the meaning of the word being defined. Brain activity is more than an oscillation of an EEG, right? Hardness is more than when material A scratch over material B, right? Potential difference is more than the difference between a conductor if a voltmeter register reading when connected to them, right? But they convey part of the essential meaning of the word being defined. They are the most limited, but they do have their own purpose, or they do have their own significance. They're considered as partial picture, and they're limited to scientific experimental disciplines, and they are not important in normative or non-descriptive disciplines. Concepts such as love, respect, freedom, and dignity resist clear-cut operational definition due to their subjective and complex nature. We cannot apply operational definition to subjective and complex natures, right? But they do have their own significance as well. Significance is empirical grounding, shared understanding. In order to make sure that we are in the same page, we need to use operational definitions. Most of them are self-explanatory. The name itself tells us something about their essence, right? Definition by genus and difference is considered to be the most successful technique of producing the 5 types of definition. Definition by genus and difference is a method defining terms by identifying the genus class or the general class to which the term belongs and specifying a distinguishing quality, which is known as the difference, that sets it apart from other things in that class. This approach is commonly used by lexicographer, dictionary makers, when creating dictionary definitions. For example, buck is defined as a male deer. What is the genus and what's the difference in this definition? Calf is defined as a young cow. What's the genus term? In the first definition, buck is defined as male deer. What's the definition by genus and difference has 3 component parts: species term, genus term, and difference term. Species term, genus term, and difference term. What is the species term, the difference term, and the genus term? In the first example, a buck is defined as male deer. What is the species, the difference, and the genus? A buck is defined as a male deer. The species is what? Male. And difference? Difference term? Difference term is? Deer. And genus term?
No, the genus is the deer.
Deer.
Difference is the male.
Male. And the species is?
Male.
Species is what? The word to be defined, which is what? Buck. Species is the word to be defined. And the difference is what? The quality that makes the species different from other species which belongs in the same genus. The difference is what? The quality that makes the difference different from other species which belongs to the same genus, right? What is the species, the difference, and the genus in the second example? A calf is defined as a young cow. Species, difference, and genus.
The species is the cow.
Species, calf.
The genus is the cow.
Cow.
And the difference is young.
Young. That's it. So the order is normal, right? Species come first, followed by difference, then genus. Species, difference, genus. Usually, but not always. Usually, species come first, followed by difference, then lastly, genus term. Usually, but not always. Not always. So the question that you need to ask yourself is, which word is to be defined, and which word is making the difference from other species term which belong to the same genus, and which word is somehow the larger class to which the species belongs, right? So the sequence may varies, right? But most usually genus, the difference by genus and difference, species comes first, followed by the difference terms and the genus term. This is considered to be the most successful technique of definitions in order to produce the 5 types of definitions. It's important to know the specific difference or difference is attributes that differentiate various species within a genus. However, one limitation of the genus and difference method is that it may not capture the true essence or complete understanding of the thing being defined. It may not capture the true essence